So he had a temporary tax measure that they found a way he could put on his tariffs for another 150 days. That ends today. Now they've alighted upon a clause in a 1974 Trade Act that says the president can impose 10 or 12.5% tariffs on countries that have forced labour in their supply chains.
President Trump has renewed his trade war with dozens of countries, including the UK, with a plan to reimpose tariffs of 10 or 12.5%. Here with more is David Charter, Assistant US Editor of The Times. David, good afternoon.
Good morning, Cathy, from Washington, DC.
Indeed, it's a bright morning for you. The tariffs are replacing those set to expire, aren't they? So is it kind of more a status quo or is it a surprise that this happened?
Yeah, so I think the best way to look at this is that Donald Trump is not really a detail guy, and he's basically said to his staff, I want to charge the rest of the world a lot of money for doing business with America. Now, we had Liberation Day in April last year when he whacked on enormous tariffs on on almost every major trading partner, and that was struck down by the Supreme Court as illegal in February. So since then, his staff have been trying to meet his demands and finding legal ways that he can do this, and there aren't many because mostly, well, in the Constitution, it's Congress has the power of the purse, has the power to raise money. It's not really the president's job at all. Trump just wants to do it. So he had a temporary tax measure that they found a way he could put on his tariffs for another 150 days. That ends today. Now they've alighted upon a clause in a 1974 Trade Act that says the president can impose 10 or 12.5% tariffs on countries that have forced labour in their supply chains. So this is the method that he's using to continue his flat rate, which was 10% on the whole world. And in fact, a lot of countries are getting a bit of a reprieve because he can't reimpose the extra tariffs that he put on Liberation Day under this method. So in fact, what it means for Britain is that our comparative advantage over other competing exporters to America has been lost, actually, after the Supreme Court has struck down Trump's initial tariffs. Where we gain is that today is the first day where the total reprieve for whiskey comes in that was granted by Trump when King Charles visited. If you remember, he said there'll be no more American import duty on whiskey, and the first consignments of whiskey have left today completely duty-free.
Yeah. I mean, where does this go from here in terms of possible legal action, how different countries might respond?
So you can imagine a lot of countries are very angry about being accused of using forced labour, especially when the EU, for example, makes a big deal about making sure its imports don't come from countries that have these practices, and other countries as well, like Norway, Australia, Switzerland, are very upset about it. There isn't a lot they can do legally because the World Trade Organization has been shown to be completely impotent in the Trump era. They could put on their own reciprocal tariffs and start a trade war, but nobody really has got an appetite to do that. They are exploring other legal avenues, and it's possible that some kind of legal case could be brought in America, but I think unlikely.
And how do you think the new Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, should handle all of this? Because Keir Starmer was so sort of softly with Donald Trump, and that didn't seem to have won us any favours, really. So is a more robust approach, might that go down better with Donald Trump, perhaps?
Well, Cathy, I think you're wrong to say it didn't win us any favours. We got a deal agreed. It was the first deal agreed to lower tariffs between any country and Trump's America, where Trump is absolutely determined to charge as much as he possibly can. So don't forget.
Yeah, but we're now worse off than the EU in this latest round, which seems a bit rich.
we're the same as the EU now, whereas we did have a marginal advantage before. They were doing 15% before, and they're back down to our level of 10%
Yeah, but
now.
if you look at, I mean, I'm maybe getting a bit technical, but if you look at the the EU's got a 10% all-inclusive deal for tariffs on its goods. The UK's got 10% universal tariffs on top of any duties imposed on individual goods. So people are saying, well, that means we're actually worse off than the EU.
No, I think we're still better off than the EU. I'm going to have to correct you on that. I think because also we've got a better deal on steel. We're paying. I know we're going to get in the weeds now.
Yeah, literally, my program editor just said in my ear, "We're in the weeds now." We will fact check that. But just a final thought then.
I take your fact checker.
Always. Of course, I believe every word of what I read in the Times, particularly if it's written by you, by the way, just to cover myself there. But just finally then, let's look at the US perspective and Trump's approval ratings. And we've got midterms coming out. What's going to be the impact there, do you think?
Well, I think Trump is fighting to skew the midterms towards him by changing the boundaries of a lot of the constituencies.
You're about to say gerrymandering there.
I was about to say gerrymandering is a perfectly valid term. I don't know if it's well understood in the UK, but it basically means changing the map so that your voters are in the majority in the constituency, and that's what they've done to their advantage. They've got an advantage going into the election of at least 10 and maybe 12 seats. So they're already building their majority, but there will be a blue wave, I think, a big... and it's going to be fueled a lot by the Iran war and the impact of that, because Trump is not going to get inflation down. It is down this month, I should say, compared to last month, but that's because he had a memorandum of understanding and a brief peace deal, didn't he, that lasted about 4 weeks. But if it carries on like this, the American public are going to... they're going to rebel at the ballot box and vote out Republicans in Congress, and of course, that will cause a great problem for the Trump administration, because we've seen this before under Nancy Pelosi in the first term. Congress will spend all its time investigating the Trump administration, and the whole thing will be completely gummed up.
David, great to have your expertise as ever, and we'll fact check and see who's right. Let me know. David Charter, the Assistant US Editor of The Times.